work there, but we all know that, I mean, if this hasn't taught us anything else, being in the space that we are now, some of the people that we think are not essential workers, no, they are. They are.
Yeah.
They are the people who are keeping everyone running, because everyone's not going to be able to sit in the house every single meal and make them. So some of those same industries that we like to discredit, quite often we need them. Like 100%. America runs on Dunkin'. They're not kidding. Like it runs on a lot of those things. So I think that we can't discredit it. Right. And I think, you know, so from there you kind of work your fast food jobs, and that's kind of when you're younger, not as big of a deal. Okay. So then we enter into retail. Retail is not prestigious, but that's where you start. But I know for me, my first retail job was actually in a cell phone store. Yeah. Those commission checks, love. Okay. Jen actually worked there too.
Sure love.
Did. Those, so on top of your regular check, you would be getting like a commission check for $2,000.
Right.
In 19, who ain't?
I'm not saying for a teenager. Balling, going by like 12 pairs of $10 shoes. Oh my God.
And y'all think we're kidding?
No, being dead serious. He was like, yo, you got your commission check? Yeah, all right, we're going on footprint.
I wish y'all could see Koya's face. Don't judge us.
I am not judging you.
Yo, we had every single color of the darn shoes.
Oh my gosh.
Pink knee-high boots. What?
Right.
Living our life.
Don't even get us started. That was a mess.
Fast.
So, I know my parents was not happy. My dad was like, where are you going? Mind your business, sir. So then we kind of go there. So then you get a little taste of what it looks like to get a real check. Fast forward 2008. Okay, well, the market crashed. So now we're all kind of in the boat of, we're here, we want to progress in our careers to be able to make more money, but all the real adults now are taking those jobs.
Right.
And we can't really get those. So kind of go back to fast food and then finally get into banking. I don't think that you realize how much the pay gap exists until you get into corporate America. Yeah. It wasn't even really a conversation or a concern, because when you start in more entry-level sectors, everyone does make the same thing. There's not this worry of, is someone doing the exact same job and they're getting paid more? Because number one, people free willingly talk about their salary because it's nothing to, there's no real envy about it because we're all not making shit. So who cares? When you get into banking, that is when you start to understand the wage gap. So I know, for instance, there was, in one of the jobs that I had, I guess the second one in banking, I came in and then somehow someone told what their salary was, and it was like $5,000 more. But they started at the same time, had very similar experience, and it was a guy. And I don't know if he just assumed we were all making the same thing. We weren't. Why? I understand that, like, if you could give me a solid, something tangible, a solid basis to say, like, these credentials, this amount of schooling, or this amount of time in a role, this is what created that gap, cool. But when we're talking similar resumes, there's no real fundamental basis for why that wage gap exists. And then fast forward to trying to move up through that company, and every time you move, I guess you call it a grade level, right? They tell you that it's still a lateral move, even though on paper it's going up in terms of grade level. So let's say the grade levels were like 5, 6, 7. You move from a 5 to a 6 to a 7. They're still telling you that it's lateral, but on paper you're looking at this requisition like, but no, it's not.
Right.
So that further creates the gap, because now I can never catch up to my counterpart. So that person already came in, they were already making more money than I was, and how am I supposed to ever catch them as they're leveling up? I'm always so far behind them. So for me, and I know a lot of people too in banking, what we found is that we can't move up within the same company. We have to job hop. We have to leave the company that we've already built up tenure at and go somewhere else, because that's the only way that we can make up for the gap. So now not only can we try to get seniority and tenure in a company, but we can't even show you brand loyalty because you're not showing me loyalty by paying me the appropriate wages. And I know a lot of times it's very dependent on if your manager is going to advocate for you. Because I have seen times where managers do come in and they take a look at the salaries of the people on their teams and they'll say, nope, it's not right. And they will do like an off-cycle increase. But more often than not, that isn't something that happens. So I guess the question that I would present to you ladies would be, when we do run into those instances of we know that we're being underpaid and we're trying to figure out how to lessen that gap, what are some areas of opportunity maybe you guys think in your experience, or has that even been something that you have knowingly experienced with not making the appropriate wage? Jen, you want to start? Oh, you want to start, Toya? Go ahead. Kick it off. Kick it off.
Just jump
Go
in
ahead,
here.
go ahead, Latoya. Go ahead,
That's
Latoya.
'cause she out here leveling up, y'all. Go ahead.
Right.
Kick it,
She's like,
Toya.
oh, yeah. Oh, new pay grade? I know about that.
So, all right, so let me be completely honest with you. I mean, so leading up to this episode, we've talked and I revealed most recently that I'm making a transition and I start my new job on Monday, this coming Monday.
Yay.
And I'm excited. Yes, even during COVID and his worldwide tour, they made it happen, and I'm thankful for the industry that I am in, and it's great.
These niggas can't hold me back.
Right,
Hey.
I'm needed. Know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Especially now, yeah.
Right. I gotta keep everybody healthy. So what I'll say is, as far as the wage gap, yeah, we know it exists, and it's especially visible for women to understand it, and it's something that we struggle with. You saying that you had a conversation with a man who was in the same or similar role as you, and he just said his salary and it was $5,000 more. It's nothing for them. It doesn't make any. It's like, what? Why wouldn't I make this?
Right.
I think the foundation of it is we aren't taught to negotiate. We are not taught it. We are taught simply, this is what someone is offering you.
And be thankful.
Most of the time it's like, I'm ready to get out of here and I'm going at the first sight of anything.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, the job hopping thing is something that is familiar because you feel like you've already said as much as you can. You've done as much work as you possibly can. You don't understand why you're not being recognized and being paid appropriately. So you're hoping that the next organization will see that. But then you get over there and you do the same thing without coming in the door and saying, no, this is what I'm worth. This is what I want. This is, I have this amount of experience, these years of experience. I'm making sure I'm up on industry standards. I'm constantly educating myself to be sure that I'm the subject matter expert for my role. And I'm still, wanting to grow with the new organization. So we don't come in with that mindset knowing that there's always more money. Yeah. So what I've experienced in the past 3 months when I was going back and forth negotiating for my new role, I had coaching. I had women who are in corporate America, and I will shout them out. One woman's name is Bari Williams. She is head of legal for Human Interest, and she has this with Blavity. She had this course about negotiating. So I took the course and then I had some side conversations with her, and it was exactly what I needed. But I took that course before I even started having conversations with this job, and it just was in the back of my mind. And when I got to the stage and they wanted to present me an offer, I had to refresh and make sure I went over the material. And the other woman, her name is Deborah Owens, and I met her at a luncheon. She is the head of this organization called the Corporate Alley Cat. And I met her at that luncheon, and her presentation was great. And then with the presentation, just for attending the luncheon, you got like a certain amount of weeks access to her organization and the coaching tools that they have there. With that, I was able to get on a call with her for 2 hours. And I told her my predicament at work, where I was, and how I felt like there was some discrimination happening. And I had the opportunity between 2 different jobs at that time. And I was trying to decide if I was going to stay with my company and fight for what I knew I was worth and what I deserved in order for me to be successful, or had it gotten to the point where it was something that I needed to abandon. And I really had to sit with it. And she asked me hard questions. And for that, I am grateful that there are women who, and both of these women are Black women, who know their stuff. Like, they know the questions and the conversation was so beyond me. Like, I didn't even think about certain things, and had I not had those conversations, I don't think I would have gone so hard and asked for so much more, even though what I was already being offered was tremendous. That's something that we are not taught. So the wage gap will continue until we have those conversations with each other. So I'm grateful for that, and I hope that I'm able to have those conversations with my peers and anyone who looks up to me as a mentor, to say, no, honey, you're worth it. Like, you're in this position, and they see that you're talented. But if somebody, just like when you dating, like, if he can get it for he going get it for free. That. You know what I'm saying? You gotta make them work.
Right.
So I'm sorry, but it's an elevation of knowing your value, knowing that you have something to give to this organization, and you don't have to be cocky about it. You can just sit in your confidence. And if I bring it to our lovely counterparts, the men, they don't have no problem doing it at all. Yeah. It's in them. They wake up. And they're confidence, just like, not cocky. They wake up like, I run the world. What? You don't run, what? But they take that into everything they do, even if they're in the inside and they're like super duper emotional. Like the conversation we had yesterday, like emotions appear differently. Like we're emoting with like tears and shaky voices, and they're emoting with F-bombs and bravado, chest all poked out. Like, okay, calm down. So we need to have more confidence and spread that knowledge amongst our community. I read a book many years ago called Knowing Your Value by Mishka Brzezinski, and she is on Morning Joe on MSNBC. Oh, yeah. So I read that book years ago, and I was like 27. I had no idea like of any, but she talked about how she did not negotiate, and she just kept getting pushed around. And even in that industry, she just felt like when she tried to take on the air of a man, it wasn't taken seriously. So it's not like have the same confidence that a man, and don't try to present as a man, but have confidence that seems authentic to you. And it is coming back to knowing that you are of value. So that's been my experience with it up until now. And I'm about to be 36 years old. I have, seen going through the same steps. Like, okay, so you see I'm doing this work, and why don't you, promote me appropriately? Why don't you, pay me appropriately? What do I have to do? Like my last organization, I had to ask, we talked about that. I had to ask for reviews. Like, I need to know what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, because if I'm doing all these things right, and you're saying I'm doing all these things right, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing anything, but you say the words, and you might send an email here and there, but there isn't any significant increase in seniority or in my pay. Like I want to feel it in my pockets. So yeah, confidence goes into it. You have to be able to negotiate. I wouldn't tell anyone to take a new job just to get out of here. Like, buckle down. And if you're going to take another job and they're going to offer you something nice, yes, absolutely. But it's still more on the table. There's always more on the table. So, yeah.
Definitely. I think that's good feedback, because I think sometimes we get scared, right? Because we do let it get to the point of we're just like, we can't take this anymore. We have to leave. It's almost like an abusive relationship. You just getting your stuff in the middle of the night, and you like, I'm running out. Right, I don't care. He can have everything. He can have it all. Yes. So then someone else gives you a little attention. You like, oh, I can go stay in this shelter. Let me just go.
He trash too.
Right. Shelter got bed bugs. I don't want to be here.
Still stressing me out.
No.
Still stressing me out.
Yes. Okay, Jen, what you got?
Okay, yeah. So no, definitely I agree. I think the major word that Latoya said, and then also what you're just echoing, is just see my value. And you if you don't see your value first, no one's going to see it ever. So I think I had like a similar introduction into banking, started in retail 15 and got into banking when I was like 21. So for about 10 years, I've been in banking, and I started like at the bottom, call center, making collection calls, can't stand it, hours sucked, like everything. And then